All right, high roller, something a little different today as we check in with my good buddy over at Safest Betting Site, Smokey Joe, Joseph Falchetti, as we get set for the NBA restart. He is a writer, sports analyst, and the editor-in-chief of that great website, again, safestbettingsites.com. Joe, welcome back, man. Thanks for being our high roller today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited that sports are back. We got baseball back. We had a little COVID outbreak in the Marlins clubhouse, so that's not the best news. But I think things will be all right. And I think the NBA and the NHL have a little better chance because they have the bubble situation versus baseball where they have teams flying all over the country. So I'm a little concerned about baseball, but I think we're going to be okay with basketball and hockey.
Well, we got some strange times, man. That is for sure. Hoop dreams. A long layoff. I think they stopped at the end of March, 5 months or so, I guess. They get back at it Thursday, is that correct?
Yeah, Thursday night, there's two games. The one that everyone's going to be talking about is the Lakers versus the Clippers. Right now, the Clippers are, most sportsbooks, minus 4.5. Those are the two teams that are favored to win the title. Lakers are about 2.5 to 1, plus 250, and Clippers like 3 plus 325 plus 350, so around 3 to 1 to win the title. So those are the top two that we have right now, and they're going to be facing off Thursday night.
The Milwaukee Bucks are up there, aren't they?
Yes, the Milwaukee Bucks are right around with the Clippers, around 3 to 1 or plus 300, something like that. Depends where you look, but they currently have the best record in the NBA, and they've looked pretty good in scrimmages so far. So we have the Western Conference powerhouses, and then we have the Bucks, which are heavily favored to win the East.
So you follow this more than I do, the NBA especially. What's happening there? Instead of 30 teams, only the top, 22 are being invited? How does that work?
I think it just was based on the teams that would have had a shot to make the playoffs were invited. The teams that had no shot to make the playoffs were essentially told, stay home. We don't need you to risk coming down here for nothing to play for. So I think that made the most sense. So we have the teams that at least have a shot at the playoffs that are still in Orlando right now or in Florida. So I do want to talk about Canada's Toronto Raptors, though.
Absolutely.
I mean, we all know the Raptors won the title last year, and it was probably one of the best title runs, I think, most exciting title runs in a long time, to dethrone the Warriors and then to see them break apart and to get the Raptors a title finally. But we saw Kawhi leave. I really do like the Clippers in general to probably win the NBA title. But in the East, the Bucks are a really substantial favorite to win the East, and I'm not sure that I agree with that completely. I think the Raptors have some value. If you look at odds markets right now, and also let's talk about how well they've played this year. In the East, they're right behind. I mean, they're not right behind the Bucks, but they had 46 wins, 18 losses, set over 700 winning percentage. They've had a fantastic season. That's without Kawhi. Siakam's been basically everything they've asked him to do, and the Raptors beat the Bucks last year in the Eastern Conference Finals with a team that had Kawhi, but Giannis still didn't play well in that series, and this is a team game, and I think right now you can get the Raptors plus 750 to win the Eastern Conference Finals, and if you do the break-even percentages on that, just for you to break even, that they have to win only 12% of the time. So I really like the Raptors as sort of a long shot bet to win the East, where I just do not feel that people are giving them their just due, at least odds markets wise anyway.
Well, we lost Kawhi, but we've still got Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet. I mean, we still got the whole gang there except Kawhi.
Yeah, I mean, and Siakam has come in and played way better. I mean, way better than I think anyone expected. He's the guy on that team, and of course, the guys you mentioned, are playing well. But I really think the Raptors are being heavily undervalued in this spot, and I think that to win the NBA title, they're 18 to 1. I think that's a little steep. I mean, I could maybe you put some lunch money on that one, but I think Raptors plus 750, and you could probably find a better price somewhere. I really like that bet.
I saw them at plus 1,800 today.
Well, plus 1,800 to win the NBA title. I'm talking about to win the East. They're plus 750. So, or plus 800. So I like them quite a bit to win the East. I think that's a bet I'm going to take. And like I said, a little lunch money wager on them to win the NBA title.
So when you say steep, you're talking about them actually winning the title.
I don't think it's likely that they'll win the title. No, I think it's more likely that they'll make it to the NBA Finals and beat the Bucks, or I think they can make it. I think the Lakers or Clippers will win the NBA title. I like the Clippers personally, but I think ultimately the winner of the NBA title is going to come out of the Western Conference, and I think it's probably going to be the Lakers or the Clippers. No disrespect to the Bucks, but I just think the Lakers and the Clippers are like far and away the two best teams right now in the NBA.
You think LeBron's going to get another championship, or do you think the Clippers have a chance against him?
I would put my money on the Clippers to win. I just think their team's a little bit more complete. Their bench is really solid. And I think the biggest thing is sort of the Clippers know to rest their players. They don't take the regular season as seriously as maybe other teams do. As you saw throughout the season, Kawhi would be sitting on nights when it was just like, okay, we're just going to sit our starters tonight. Paul George is not going to play tonight. And that's not great for fans that it took a road trip to Los Angeles to see their favorite players, but it does make sense from a perspective of there's 82 games in the regular season. You don't need to win all those games. I mean, you don't need to get the number one seed even necessarily. So I'm sure it's important. I mean, it's definitely important to get a record that you can have an easier path through the postseason. But I think the Clippers have a great roster, and they're also very smart about load management with their players, especially their stars.
Yeah, fatigue management is very important. It's funny you mentioned that. I was a kid when I went to the Blue Jays game, Exhibition Place, and I was expecting to see the Bird, Fidrich, pitch for the Detroit Tigers, and he got sick. So we drove all that way, and he wasn't on the mound. That's the whole reason we went. It was so disappointing.
Speaking of being sick, let's talk about betting during this season of COVID.
We're gonna talk about that, but I just want to get the lay of the land of the NBA. It's kind of like a sprint, right, to the playoffs, because 8 games for each team, 7 teams in each conference qualify. Then there's some kind of play-in for the 8th seed.
Yeah, that's the way it looks like. I think the way they've done it is pretty solid. I think it's going to work out well, and I don't want to jinx this conversation, but no one really talks about the MLS, and I'm not talking about the MLS because I enjoy soccer. I like real sports more. No offense. So in the MLS's bubble, they had they're doing the same thing that the NHL is doing, the same thing the NBA is doing, and they've had 0 cases over 8 weeks. They've had no outbreaks, no positive tests, nothing. So I think there's a lot of hope. The plan the NBA has put together, the bubble that they put together, I think we're going to be able to actually watch these sports play out, and we'll be able to see a champion. So I don't think we're going to see a couple weeks they have to cancel the season or something like that. Baseball, on the other hand, is a little more worrisome, as you can already see with the outbreak. So.
Well, I like the fact that it's all coming back. We need sports in society. And just a quick sprint here to the playoffs, but I know in the West it seems pretty much set. In the East, it's more questionable. Memphis has that inside track, but New Orleans, Portland, Sacramento, all there hot on Memphis's tail.
No, you're right. It's really wide open in terms of the West and who's going to make it late. I think the Mavericks are always a really exciting team, and it looks like they're going to be in there as well. But there's just a lot of talent in the West. I mean, these teams are all really good. I mean, it's hard to say that the Pelicans are not better than most of the teams in the East, to be honest with you. I mean, even the playoff teams. So, I mean, if you put the Celtics against the Pelicans, I might take the Pelicans in that. So I think the winner is going to come out of the West, the NBA title. But these 8 games matter, and it's going to be hopefully a very exciting couple weeks here.
I was more referring to the playoff implications. It seems like the West is pretty much set in terms of who gets in, but there is some room for movement in the East where these teams are all vying for those last positions.
I think in the West, when we talk about the seeding, there's still a little bit of wiggle room as well with the Rockets, Mavericks, Grizzlies. But I mean, I wish I could get you excited about some of these teams in the East. But the Nets, for example, they have basically their whole roster. Like Kyrie Irving's not playing. I can't remember who else they'd lost, and the East is so top heavy. Realistically, the Celtics and the Heat, I feel like are legitimate teams, but to me they're maybe even the Sixers. But I really think we're talking about the Raptors and the Bucks as the teams that are going to be the ones that are ultimately in the Eastern Conference Finals. And to me, I really like the value on the Raptors at almost 8-1 to have a shot to win the Eastern Conference.
Well, the playoffs begin on August 17th, so pretty close. Game 7 of the NBA Finals will take place, if necessary, no later than October 13th. So, strange times. There's no fans, social distancing. We've got this bubble. But players can opt out, and a lot of players have. Kevin Durant, I guess, being the most prominent name on that list. So when you talk about betting, I mean, there's certain things to watch for. First of all, who's on the roster? Who's suiting up?
Absolutely. And we saw with Zion Williamson got COVID, the Pelicans forward. And a lot of these betting lines they have up for the sites now, they have games ahead of time. So one player, it's not like baseball where if a pitcher gets scratched, it's significant in baseball. But if one guy gets scratched from the lineup, it's not as significant. But if a premium player like Zion or LeBron or something like that gets scratched before a game, that is huge news. That changes the number quite a bit. So what can bettors do to get ahead of this? You know, I know you're a fan of Twitter. I'm addicted to Twitter. I'm on there I think I just have it by default, just in my brain.
I'm on Twitter all the time at High Roller Radio. But yeah, I'm on there all the time. And I mean, if you use it right, it's useful.
I think it's extremely useful for it's addicting, but it's extremely useful for sports news and news in general. But for something like this, where we have tons of potential late scratches. Even if there was no COVID, you want to keep an eye on the news about who might not play that night. But with this, it can be extremely profitable because you can find sportsbooks that don't adjust their lines fast enough to news. And the easiest place and the fastest place to get news is Twitter because you can get the news immediately. You don't have to wait to watch SportsCenter or whatever the case may be or the television. You just get the news and you can act on that information before, even in some cases, faster than the sports book. So if you're betting right now for all sports, not just the NBA, I mean, I would highly recommend if you're not on Twitter to get on Twitter and make a group and just have all sports news and get your news and follow it and use that information the best you can.
I know the other thing you want to do is check out safestbettingsites.com because you got a lot of great info there.
Yes, we do. We have a ton of great info. We have picks for this upcoming game. We like the Clippers at plus 4.5. Although I am a little worried Kawhi might come out with one of those games where he just doesn't care because it seems like that's the way he's been playing in the scrimmages. But the main reason I want people that are listening to head to Safest Betting Sites is because we really do bet at the sites that we promote. And right now is a great time to get back into sports betting because it's been, we're begging. You can't watch Russian soccer forever. You know what I mean? You have to get you have to have real sports out there. So for us, we review sports books. We point in the right direction with bonuses, strategy, stuff like that. And the sports books we promote, we play at. So we're not going to steer you wrong.
And I guess lastly, you've already mentioned it, but good advice to bettors right now is try to get ahead of the game because you can beat the line almost and make some positive bets if you find out on Twitter or through your site some of these players that are opting out or not playing that particular evening.
Yeah, I mean, really, it comes down to just kind of in luck in some cases. But if you're around closer to tip off of baseball games, and there's a lot of sports books now with baseball too. They're doing action bets and not listed pitchers. So if a pitcher gets scratched, that's not canceled or it's not pushed. It's still live. So that's something to keep in mind. Although some have changed their stance on that over the past day or so, it seems like. But there's a lot of value in sticking around your computer or your cell phone and acting on that information if you can.
Smokey Joe, Joseph Falchetti, writer, sports analyst, and editor-in-chief at safestbettingsites.com. Again, safestbettingsites.com. Thanks for your time, man. Enjoy the restart. Enjoy the playoffs. Enjoy sports coming back online.
Thank you. I will. I was thinking the past few weeks my mood's gotten better, and I was like, oh no, it's just because sports are coming back. It's nothing to do with any personal changes in my life. It's because we're finally getting sports back. But thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that boat. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.